The recent suicide bombings in Russia that prompted terrorism warnings ahead of the Winter Olympics are a stark reminder that terrorism is still very much alive.
One country which worries daily about terror attacks is Israel. Fox 32's contributor Dr. Mona traveled to Israel to see what it is really like living under a cloud of fear.
Sderot, Israel is a small city with a big problem. Located less than a mile from the Gaza Strip, its 20,000 residents live in constant fear of attacks from homemade rockets, or Qassam, from its neighbors.
28,000 rockets over 12 years.
Rocket remnants sit at the Sderot police station as grisly reminders of the constant threat of terrorism. Kobi Harush is the civilian in charge of security in Sderot for the Israeli Defense Force.
This hill is named after him.
He took us to Kobi's Hill to gaze at Gaza. The strip lies in the distance past the hill, brush, roads, trees, and ground. It's not far enough. Air raid sirens go off an average of 3 to 4 times each day. Protection is everywhere. Bus stops are bomb shelters. And sadly, the busiest workers in town are the paramedics of Magen David Adom, Israel's first responders. Sderot's mayor, Alon Davidi, knows all too well of the toll this fear takes on children.
I have seven kids.
7 children?
Yes.
Davidi and other parents suffer the heartbreaking reality that their children can't play outside. They swing and ride cars indoors within thick concrete walls. Rock climbing is done across, not up, in case the children need to jump down quickly so the force of a bomb doesn't knock them down. Kobi Harush says his biggest fear is that the battles will wear him down. He will run out of patience to fight the war on terrorism. Terror didn't start yesterday, he says, and it won't end tomorrow. His focus is saving lives one at a time. Dr. Mona Khanna, Fox 32 News.
There is a hospital in Israel that can go underground if it is ever attacked. In fact, it's the largest such facility in the whole world.
Fox 32 medical contributor Dr. Mona was one of 18 doctors who traveled to Israel to train in medical response, and she has more on that hospital.
Our first visit to Haifa, Israel, the home of the world's largest underground hospital.
In 2006, there was here the Second Lebanon War. We were under a full rocket attack for a full month. Over 60 missiles actually fell around the hospitals. And actually our patients, our staff, were endangering their lives while being in a hospital. And this is something that I swear at that time that could not continue.
In peaceful times, it's a mammoth parking garage. But if under attack, it's outfitted with electrical outlets and connections for suction machines and ventilators that can be converted to a 2,200-bed hospital with intensive care units, dialysis machines, and operating rooms. At the Israel Center for Medical Simulation, we drilled on dummies with real-life reflexes.
You can do a rolling spasm, okay? Trismus, you see? Okay? Tangadema.
And provided medical aid to mannequins after chemical exposures. The scenario is this. The medical team had to suit up because they knew that the patient had chemical exposures and physical injury. You can see the physical injuries right here on his leg. Because the patient had secretions coming out of his nose and his mouth and his eyes, in fact, he was vomiting, what they did was to grab this medication called atropine, and they injected it into him quickly because that's the medication that is going to counteract the chemical exposure. One of the most unusual exercises was comforting mock patients suffering from psychological trauma after being close to a terror attack.
Well, it was very dramatic. Just because they don't have blood pouring out from someplace or they're a major injury doesn't mean they haven't been hurt by the terrorist attack.
I wanted to be trained by people that think about this all the time, who are always under the gun potential of terrorist attacks, and if you want to learn something, you go to the experts.
Here in the United States, chest pain and car accidents are two of the most common reasons people call for ambulances. But in Israel, first responders are also on alert for terror response.
For the past 3 days, Fox 32's medical contributor, Dr. Mona, has given us a behind-the-scenes look at how medical response is handled in Israel, a country that lives under a threat of terrorism every day.
When a bomb hits, dispatch activates the response. When seconds count, the medics arrive. When transport is called, the ambulances are ready to go to the highly equipped hospital trauma centers.
Then we put them on these separators.
And when transfusions mean the difference between life and death, the blood is ready.
So blood comes in, being separated in the computer, being separated physically in the centrifuges to the three components. Plasma is frozen, red cells go to the refrigerator, and the platelet go to the incubator, the shaker.
Saving lives is the only task of Magen David Adom, or MADA, Israel's dispatch, first responders, transport, and blood services all rolled into one. Terrorism response is an organized system of interlocking parts that has become a precise science for Israel.
So the government in 1950 decided to give MDA the responsibility of these two major services, emergency medical services and the blood services. So we do it by law in Israel.
It's as big of a job as the new $2 million mobile command center.
The whole idea is to really work together, bring together all the emergency services, humanitarian services in a mass casualty or disaster event.
Fox News got an exclusive look at this truck outfitted with the most sophisticated intelligence monitoring technology available: radios, maps, phones, and monitors. But Israel's strength still lies in the innovation of its people. Akiva Pollack is a MADA paramedic who knows firsthand the difficulties of bulky equipment. He created the micro BVM, which keeps critically injured patients alive before they are put on a ventilator.
What we have now is this whole thing in this small box.
Okay.
You have the mask. You have the tube.
The tubing that goes to the oxygen.
To connect it to the oxygen.
So while bigger may be necessary, saving lives takes one small step at a time. Dr. Mona Khanna, Fox 32 News.